So I'm here at the Triumph launch for their new 400 range. I've got the Scrambler 400X here. Actually, a couple of surprises. I was expecting a small, quite demure entry-level machine, and probably what stands out to me most is quite a tall seat height, nice tall bars. Feels kind of like a almost miniaturized tourer. It does have some nice soft suspension in it. Really interesting engine. I'm gonna have to test that a little bit more before I give too much more thought on that, but certainly Triumph have delivered a really attractive motorcycle here. The styling cues are spot on. The price is looking really competitive. Really like the exhaust. It's got a nice little burble to it. I'll have some more in-depth thoughts when we put some more Ks on the bikes, but jumping on that Scrambler 400X for the first time, I've come away pretty impressed and certainly surprised by just how unique an offering it is compared to anything else that I've really tested that fills this kind of role. So let's talk specifics with the Scrambler 400X first. Triumph has given us the tall bars, Scrambler style exhaust, headlight guard, hand guard, sump guard, and tank pads to differentiate this model alongside longer travel suspension. It's a seriously stylish bike with that Triumph modern classic styling in full display and a finish quality to match. We're not seeing quite as off-road and orientated machine as some of their larger Scramblers, however this is a machine that will be aimed at new riders, particularly in Australia. So how does it deliver on that? Very well. Seat height is taller as a result of being a Scrambler, but conversely the bike is roomy for me at 180 centimeters with a 32-inch inseam, and that seat height is manageable but occasionally noticeable when stopping with the ground dropping away. This bike should suit larger riders as a result, which may be a concern if considering the smaller classes of bike. For bigger trips, there's no doubt the Scrambler 400X would be my pick of these two bikes. In fact, I'd probably say this bike ticks the box best of the Scramblers I've tested in the 400 to 500cc class. Impressively, despite the marginally longer travel suspension, the bike is planted, stable and well supported for me at 75 kilos with no sign of any wallow. I'd say the bike's a little rear orientated as far as the overall stance, with a lighter front end as a result, but impressively supported on the front end on the brakes, probably partially because the initial brake action and bite is quite forgiving. Those brakes, given a bit more leverage, become seriously impressive low, living up to the Biber name, keeping in mind that is just a Brembo sub-brand. There's ride-by-wire controlling the new 399cc single, and it's a nice little engine. If we talk the 350 Classic class, performance expectations are low. However, Triumph have punched well above that in line with the 400cc modern class. There's a gentle and smooth throttle open, matched to a smooth low to mid-range before developing into a nice power band around that 5,000 to 6,000 RPM range up to 8,000 RPM. Torque does flatten out up top, so keep the Scrambler 400X in that sweet spot and you'll be a very happy rider. It does mean more actively using the gearbox for sure, but honestly that's part of the fun of a smaller machine, in my mind at least. For a single, that smoothness is noteworthy too, as they can be a bit frantic at high revs. I didn't find that to be the case with the Scrambler. It's not P-twin level smooth and revvy, but damn impressive all the same. Handling overall was good, the wide bars giving good leverage, the taller stance ensuring a bit more of a commanding feel to the bike. The front end can be a little light if you're absolutely crawling through traffic at the minimum speed possible without a foot down, and turn in is a little slower once you get into the twisties. It's probably worth mentioning the larger 19-inch front wheel here that I'd had forgotten compared to the dual 17 inches on the Speed, so that is somewhat expected. You just need a little more input and don't get quite the same intimacy from the front as far as feel as you do on the Speed. We didn't test the bikes off-road with time being short, so it's hard to say much there. Overall, the Scrambler 400X is impressive. Great little engine, great suspension, great brakes and comfort. An ideal compromise that will work for new riders building skills and offer enough to keep an experienced motorcycle rider who likes smaller bikes happy. Priced at essentially 10k, the Triumph seems aligned with bikes like the Honda CL500 and I'd even say the 390 ADV. There's a little premium over the Speed, but that's not unusual for the Scrambler or ADV classes. Where I liked the Scrambler, the Speed 400 I loved. That's not to say the Speed is better, it just worked for me in a way that had me quickly wanting to buy one, which may have been partially due to just getting to the best twisties of our test route on this bike. Seriously good roads, and this bike just ate them up. The shorter seat height makes for an easier reach to the ground, and the lower center of gravity is noticeable despite the main differences being a tiny bit of suspension travel and that 17-inch front. Kinda minor stuff, but the Speed feels more nimble, gives more feedback, and had a very intimate front end feel, as well as a better feel of balance front to rear as far as weight distribution, I guess you'd say. Those bars do however feel particularly wide slide and are further capped in bar end mirrors. The engine felt a little nippier too, despite Triumph telling us they are the same, which may have just come down to the bike being a little bit lighter. Suspension isn't quite as forgiving as on the Scrambler 400X, but shares the premium feel and character. Seriously nice for the price point, I'd say. Although again, I'm 75 kilos and that is a big factor with any suspension. Ground clearance is also lower and you'll have a toe down much more easily, partially probably because you're carrying more lean angle quite naturally. Handling was sublime, keep in that sweet spot in the rev range, right in the torque, maintain your speed through the twisties and enjoy. Rewarding, thrilling and fun. Not really that fast if you're talking bigger bikes, but definitely fast enough for new riders and those who don't push the envelope to extremes. You'll certainly be able to break the speed limit, no worries at all. However, I think the speeds are a little bit more moderate, kinda typical of the 400cc class. Feedback and as a result confidence was up a notch on the Speed 400 and seriously impressive overall. Brakes likewise have a little less bike to pull up which helps, and I think getting a bit more weight over the front there really helped too. And I was trailing the brakes into the corners a bit more with good results. The Speed 400 also notably arrives at essentially 9k on the road, saving you some moolah, being a little more sporty overall, and I'd also say probably giving a little more of that feeling of speed than the taller Scrambler, at these speeds at least, which to me is a benefit. Lacking the extras of the Scrambler, the Speed does run Rosso 3 tyres standard. Features I've glossed over are things like the ABS and traction control, nice inclusions, but not really getting a look in our test route to any notable extent, which is probably a good thing realistically speaking. Okay, so I started the day on the new Triumph Scrambler 400X and I've ended the day on the Speed 400, and I gotta say the Speed 400 was the bike for me. While they share so many common components and they're definitely built along the same basis, the Speed 400 was just the outright winner in so many ways. The engine felt that little bit more eager despite being essentially the same as in the Scrambler. The handling with the shorter front end, the smaller front wheel, those nice wide bars was an absolute winner for me. It was more agile, it was easier to hustle through the corners, and at the end of the day, I loved this bike. I thought the Scrambler 400X was a really, really good machine, but the Speed 400 to me really was just an outright winner. Obviously, it's got a much more attractive exhaust on it. I didn't find the seat quite as comfortable as that Scrambler. However, at the end of the day, this has got to be the winner for me. And to end the day on this and take it through some of the really nice roads just out of Melbourne was really pretty amazing. And hopefully you will grab one of these bikes and take it for a test ride. And if you're a beginner rider, I think you'll be very, very happy starting your riding on one of these and jumping into the Triumph family. So if you've got any questions at all, ask me down below in the comments. As always, stay safe out there and thanks for watching.